Hi, I'm Natalia Munoz of Holyoke Media. I'm with my colleague, Johan Rashivega, also from Holyoke Media. And today we are interviewing one of the 3 candidates for the position of state representative for the 5th Hampden District, which of course is Holyoke itself. We are speaking today with City Councilman David Bartley. Thank you for joining us, Councillor. Let's start off with you telling the voting public a little bit about yourself, please.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanks for pulling this together. My name is David Bartley. I'm a resident business person in Holyoke. So a little bit about my background. I am a practicing attorney. Went to law school later in life. Didn't graduate law school until I was 41. No, 40 actually. Graduated law school when I was 40. I went to school at nights. Prior to that, I obtained a master's degree and a BA from UMass, and before that, I went to Holyoke High School, North Mount Harmon School, et cetera, et cetera. And so I had a career in, for almost 18 years, I worked for the State Auditor's Office, and it gave me a real perspective on public money. And I think that kind of has really shaped my view on the importance of public resources. And as I repeatedly said on the floor of the City Council, we are nothing but stewards for this generation and for future generations of Holyokers. It's not for a quick win. It's for thoughtful process and trying to help the city move forward. And that's really what I've been about. And as you noted, I was last year reelected to my 5th term as a city councilor from Ward 3, which those of us who live here know it as Elmwood, and I announced maybe in 2017, 2018, I can't remember, that I intended to make this my 5th and final term as a councilor. So because that'll be 10 years, and 10 years seems like a pretty good time, a pretty good amount of time to be on a board. And I feel like I pitched in, and listen, if you want to follow up with a question about city council stuff and how I got those decisions anytime, I would love to do that. I know that a lot of my constituents follow up with me. I had, I don't know, somewhere near 60 Ward 3 meetings early on, the first half of my 10 years. Then when Metcalf closed, we moved to a local restaurant and they closed, and I kind of got away because we had meetings there and they were wonderful. It was a great forum for which to host people. Had all sorts of people from all over the city come and ask wonderful questions. And then we would have special guests. And so constituent services is just something I really, vitally important. From there, I transitioned to having a kind of a bi-monthly newsletter, which now my account counts somewhere around 940 emails on there, and I just let people know what's happening in the city. So yeah, that's probably more you wanted to hear, but that's my background.
No, that's actually great to hear, because it's about communicating with your constituents on an ongoing basis. Now, we've asked other candidates this as well. As you know, the Massachusetts legislature is organized by seniority when it comes to committee appointments and staffing assignments. As a new member, how do you think you will be heard among the other 159 members in the House of Representatives?
Well, let me, first, I just want to say to both of you how much I appreciate the thoughtfulness of your questions, because that should be told to the public. So you didn't list exact questions, you list the topics, but each one is on point. And I can assure you, I've had questions from other quote unquote reputable parties. They're not nearly as thoughtful or as on point as yours. And I want to give you credit. So I'm not blowing smoke. I just want you to know how much I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So let me just make one corrective thing. I had an interesting thing yesterday with the Republican editorial board. A couple of them, and these are editors. One was editor-publisher, and they gave a premise, Natalia and Johan. They were factually incorrect premises, and I had the audacity to point that out to them. And it's like I was pushing back. I said, you're wrong. And so they didn't appreciate that. I know, and that's my long-winded way of saying the legislature. You said in your premise that the legislature is based on seniority. That's not quite accurate, and I'll give you a perfect example as to why in a minute. The U.S. Senate, the U.S. Congress, no doubt, that is all about seniority in that angle. So it's taken, for example, Mr. Neal all these decades to rise through the ranks of the Ways and Means and get to that point. In the State House, it's more of a meritocracy and working with the leadership and trying to get things done. Very similar to what happens at the city council level. Again, not about seniority whatsoever. It's about who's got the ideas, who's got the energy to work hard at it. So that's why I've had success in city council. I mean, I became a chairman of a committee in city council in my second term, which that doesn't happen very often. So, and it's a perfect example of the legislature not being about seniority, because my father became Speaker of the House in his fourth term. Now, he was 32 when he became Speaker of the Massachusetts House. I can assure you he stepped over many more veteran legislators because he went down there with the attitude, A, I'm going to learn the rules. B, I'm going to show up all the time. C, I'm going to work hard. And D, I'm going to work with the leadership, not fight them and buck them and turn your back on them. So I think one of my goals is to come with energy, come with ideas, and not travel down to Boston with nothing but a resume looking for a job. I'll be 55 on August 27th. I'm too old to get a job anywhere else. I have a job. I'm a full-time lawyer. I love being a lawyer, and I intend to continue to be a lawyer. And so I don't need a job. I don't need to give my resume to anybody down there. I just want to go to Boston if that's the will of the voters. To work hard and represent Holyoke. So it's my intention to bring ideas, bring energy, enthusiasm, as many of the people are watching this now have seen me on the floor of the city council, maybe seen me chair of the Development and Governmental Relations Committee, maybe seen me as the vice chair of the Ordinance Committee. I try to bring a lot of thoughtfulness and ideas, and it's my hope to continue that in Boston.
What committees would you like to be part of if you're elected to be state representative? What are your interests?
Right. You know what? That's something that if we get elected, that I will do the due diligence on that. I'm not superstitious. I just don't like to get ahead of myself. But and as I said multiple times, I don't ever talk big before an election, because it's just all it can do is blow back in your face. So when you ask me that question, what committees, I can't answer specifically for those prior reasons. But what I will say is we know that there are more important committees than others in Boston. We know that, right? We're not ignorant that Ways and Means and perhaps the Education Committee and maybe some other committees are more important than say, the Gateway Cities Committee. I mean, we know that, right? We're all experienced people. And to say, to provide a wish list is great. But at some point, if we get elected, I know there'll be a conversation with leadership and perhaps those questions will be raised. But it's trying to help the city of Holyoke in any way that I possibly can with the resources at my disposal. That's all I've ever done as a counselor, and that's all I expect to do if we go to Boston.
What are some of your ideas on how to navigate the continually changing rules on how, we're functioning as a society, from private gatherings to public education? As you know, Holyoke schools have now gone remote. There will be exceptions, according to the superintendent, on a case-by-case basis with some students. But as our other schools, Springfield Public Schools have gone completely remote. Some colleges have gone completely remote. Some people are wearing masks. Some people are not wearing masks. Where do you stand on this issue?
Pretty simple. Bottom line, public health is paramount. So how you know, I wear the mask any place I go where it's a public space. There's no exceptions. And until such time as the very intelligent people in Cambridge or other places around the world come up with a vaccine, I think we're going to be in that situation, Natalia. So we don't necessarily have a superintendent. We don't have local control at the school board. And you and I know that, and I think we conferred on that before. It's incredibly frustrating situation. So that's a different topic when if we could talk about the state of education in the city. But the health of the administrators, the teachers, the students. Can you imagine when you were in grade school? Think about this. Especially if the earlier grades, or when you're a teenager, having to wear a mask all day long, and then having to listen to a teacher try to learn your studies wearing a mask all. I just think that would be difficult. For me, who am I to speak about anybody else? So I won't. But I would think it would be pretty challenging to have to do with that. And what alternatives are there? You've got to wear the mask. So I think remote learning at this point is the way to go.
Speaking about the schools, what do you think needs to happen for the Holyoke School Committee to once again have agency over who they hire as a school superintendent?
Well, you've landed on with that question, and I that's a fair question, and I can say that the job of the receiver, which should have been the job of Dr. Reich, is to come up with your termination point. Now, I'm not being trite. I'm just saying once we get to his termination point, we know that he's laid out goals education-wise that lead him to his disposal, and that we can walk Dr. Reich I don't know the new receiver's name. I apologize for that. I haven't even received the correspondence from the gentleman yet. His goal should be, this is how we're going to terminate receivership, by hitting these various benchmarks. The only benchmark I think 95% of us have heard is a high school graduation rate, which if you came to the committee that I chair, DGR, you might have heard numerous teachers and former teachers really arguing about just how maybe that graduation rate really wasn't as on point as the receiver and the mayor said, because there were a lot of things behind that. So we've got to really get our arms around how we can make students succeed. The driving force behind almost any municipality and all the pretty towns in Massachusetts, the Wellesleys and the Hinghams and the Dovers and Longmeadow. Natalia, what do they have? What do they all emphasize? They emphasize the wonderful public schools. And Holyoke can emphasize that. Right across the street from my office, my little office on Northampton Street, is Metcalf. It is the one, well, and Ian White now has expanded with a bilingual ed, so I can't say it's the only one. But it's the one program where Holyoke receives out-of-district students, where parents from some of the pretty towns and pretty places come, and they want to have their children immersed in the language, because Holyoke, one of its greatest strengths is the diversity of the city. Is this hard to figure out? I don't know why. That is our strength. So we've got so much diversity, whether it's from the beautiful island down south or Central, whatever. It's just, that's Holyoke's strong suit. It is not our weak point. It's what makes us best. So what makes us the city we are, because we are a city of immigrants. That's how we were all pushed into this town. That's how I grew up here. All my grandparents came here. So anyway, so if we can emphasize that and use that to our advantage, and the receiver, and so we can ultimately get to a point where the school committee can take over take over running the school system is what they should be doing. Local control is vital, and the school committee can get back to doing what it does best, which is running the school side of the government, as opposed to being run really by somebody in Boston. It's really Riley, and he's doing it now with the new gentleman. I apologize for not knowing the name. I just don't know it. But with the former receiver, Dr. Reich. They would put on a show for the school board, but we all know that school board they're totally emasculated. They have no authority whatsoever. At best, they're an advisory board.
You're referring to Jeffrey Riley, who's the commissioner of
Yes.
the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and also referring to Dr. Alberto Vasquez Matos, who is the appointed receiver superintendent of the Holyoke schools.
Thank you.
Following up on that, Mr. Bartley, you have said that if you're elected, following on the diversity of the city, I should say, you have said if you are elected, you will certainly hire a Spanish-speaking person to be part of your staff. Is that still part of your plan?
Oh my gosh, thank you for bringing that up. Can you imagine? There's never been a Spanish-speaking person on the state rep staff. I don't think there was a Spanish-speaking person on the state senator's staff. I can't confirm that, but I'm almost positive that neither Mr. Knappich nor Mr. Humison, prior to them, Shannon O'Brien, prior to them, the Honorable Marty Dunn. I don't know if Mr. Vilas has anybody on that can speak Spanish, but can you imagine?
Yeah.
I can't. So and thank you for actually reading my website. Unlike the Springfield Republican, didn't bother reading anything on there, but that's all right. Yes, that's going to be an important. And so I've reached out to numerous people that are supporting my campaign from the Latino community. Let me just broadly say it like that. They all know my position, and they've been feeding me names all along. And like I said, it's if we're elected, of course. So I don't want to get too far ahead, but I don't want to be caught flat-footed either. So we're going to be. I've got a roster of names, and I'm looking forward to it. But yes, that will happen.
Okay. Some of the final questions have to do with the other elections going on, the other primaries going on as well. Do you have a position on the 1st Congressional District race, and who do you support and why?
You could probably guess. So I've, and it's not for the reasons that have come out recently. Nothing to do with it, Natalia and Johan. Nothing. I have a lot of friends in the gay community, a lot of supporters as well, and frankly, I am. I may not be known as a very liberal or progressive person, but I am a huge supporter of gay rights. I'm a huge supporter of having families, adoptive families with gay parents, because for multiple reasons. And so the gay families that of which I know, they're just loving parents, and the community itself should be proud. And I will do whatever is necessary to support them from a legislative standpoint. So there's that. But and this is Mr. Neal. Chairman of Ways and Means. We don't get too many Western Mass guys that rise to that position, though. Massachusetts has had some luck. Mr. McGovern is the head of rules. He's right next door. He represents Northampton.
The
That's
2nd
pretty
Congressional District, yes.
He's in CD2. One of the most famous of names, of course, is Joe Moakley, and he was chairman of I want to say rules as well, but it was rules, and so there's a federal courthouse named after him in Boston, and they do that for a reason. So Massachusetts has had tremendous legislative leaders. I think one of the most disappointing things about the challenger to Mr. Neal, my perspective only. This is only me, Dave Bartley, but this is me as a city councilor. he treats the job as mayor as a no-show job. He doesn't go into work. He doesn't engage in city council. I don't know what he does for constituents. I can't speak about that. But this is the mayor of the city of Holyoke, basically collecting a salary and not working as the mayor. And I don't think I'm being unreasonable when I say that. And this has happened since he won the 4-year term. I don't get calls. I don't get emails. It's that. And then look at the lack of leadership. Natalia and Johan, or advocacy. I mean, he came in. I'm going to do something, he said, about the downtown. Maybe Ray Street, and I think that's because there's some private investment and some other public resources. Ray Street's maybe turned around. I don't know about other areas of the downtown. The flats in South Holyoke. I don't know, and there's a myriad of other issues. So listen, Alex came in with a lot of fire, a lot of energy. If for some reason, at some point, he got bored with the job, and I apologize. My phone's ringing off. This is my law office, so I'm a one-man band, so I do apologize for that. So if so I would say you pretty much guess where I'm going to vote on the congressional race. The other races, for Senate and President, I don't really, I just rather put those to the side, because when you hear little politicians like me talking about the other bigger races, I don't want to aggravate anybody, to be truthful. So I'm going to make my votes. My votes are going to be my votes. And it'll be myself and my conscience when I walk into the voting booth. And so I have generally made a practice never to endorse anybody, and I don't ask for anyone's endorsement either. So it's just been a position of mine over the years and over my years in office.
Well, I would challenge the notion that you're a little politician. I think being a city councilor is an important position, as you know too. I think running for state representative is also very important. And I think your opinion does matter in the 1st Congressional District race as much as it matters for the Senator of Massachusetts and the President of the United States. But I hear you don't want to speak publicly about that.
I'm definitely, to tell you, I look at this, I am a ward counselor. I am basically the lowest rung on the ladder. Although, as I found out, and this is, I hope people are watching this, and if they hear nothing of what I say, I hope they can listen to this. I've had more fun as a Ward 3 city councilor than any person should have, because you can have an impact you can have an impact on your neighborhood, your community, and even influence outside the community. And as an example of that, is my idea. We had the Purple Heart Trail, and that's something that's been, so it kind of carves through Holyoke, got signs all over Route 202. That's now been extended, copied, but imitations, it's a serious form of flattery, through Westfield and then through Southwick on Route 202 to the Connecticut state line. So the Purple Heart Trail runs and that started here in Little Holyoke, and that started with little old me in ordinance committee. And I'll never forget Jen Shatnoff and Linda Bacon really pitching in and helped me formulate the idea. And I know there were other counselors too, and I apologize for not naming other counselors by name, but Jen and Linda really helped me formulate what I had was an idea, and they made it. They helped make it into what it is. So I mean, it's just a small example, and I know it's just a bunch of signs, but it's something important to our veterans. And when you think about, of course, what's happened to our beloved seniors and our beloved veterans around the community, and specifically at the Soldiers Home, which happens to be in Ward 3. It's at the far end of Ward 3, but it's part of the ward. So the Purple Heart Trail is pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of it, and that's something that that's something that I know that we started here and expanded elsewhere. So I think it's pretty cool.
I feel compelled to try to be as fair as possible. regarding the first congressional district race, in that when we talk about development downtown in Holyoke and then versus in Springfield, um, it's been an uphill battle for both cities to revitalize the downtown. For the mayors of both cities going back decades, this is not a recent challenge, and so I just want to make sure that when we talk because that's the race that you did want to comment on, and you did talk about downtown development in Holyoke, that made me think, well, what's been going on in Springfield? And really the big thing that happened in Springfield was the casino. And that's a private enterprise, and that's something, with the mayor there and also with the congressman there and a bunch of other people who were involved in that. The casino wanted to be in Springfield. They did not want to be in Holyoke. So I'm just trying to be fair about downtown development, since you brought that up.
Well, urban areas in a lot of communities in Massachusetts, with the exception being Boston, we all love Boston, right? But even that has its challenges in certain sections of Boston as well. Has severe challenges with crime and poverty and disenfranchisement. So let's not pretend. And if you ever get the chance to go to Boston or look it up online, it's something called the Methadone Mile. And I encourage anybody to just Google that. And if you want to see how, I visited it with a couple friends just because I heard about it. I couldn't believe it. And it's one of the most shocking areas that I've seen in any environment in my life. And that is in lovely Boston. And it's open air drug deals and other things that are and people stumbling around. So anyway, let me put that to the side. Springfield, Holyoke, we've got some urban challenges, no doubt about it. But I took what my point was, the mayor came in 2011, 2012, when he took office, going to transform it. Now, I'll tell you, I'll ask this rhetorically because I know this is not your position to answer the question. But have you seen big changes in downtown? And I'm asking that rhetorically because that your job isn't to answer that, because you're from the other side of the coin here. I'll answer my own question with rare exception. No, I have not. I mean, look at the buildings right proximate to City Hall, still in the same dilapidated state they've ever been in. Across from City Hall, we even sold a building as a city, still boarded up, and that's the health facility, still unused. It's just, it's the old law firm with Attorney Moriarty, Attorney Neves, and et cetera were in there. It's still unused. Look at the corner with the former Latino Chamber of Commerce. That building is still beautiful, but it's basically vacant, Natalia. I mean, just keep going in concentric circles around City Hall, and you've got to go out a ways till you get to some kind of development in the urban core. So you just do circle after circle around City Hall. It isn't happening. And I point out the mayor, he wanted the top job, and he's the one that said it. I'm going to do something about it. So I'm going to suggest to you that not much has been done about it, other than some small pockets. Is that to say he's at fault? No, but he made the promise. I didn't make the promise. And so there you go.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Now I'm going to invite my colleague, Johan Rashivega, to conclude our conversation with you with some questions from him.
Okay. Hi, Johan.
Hi, Councillor Candidate Bartley. So thinking about representation of women, just a little context on this. The House State of Representatives has 160 members at the State House, of which 48 are women. That means 33.3%. Actually, this is the same number in percentage for the candidates of the 5th Hampden for State Rep. Being 3 candidates, only one of them woman. Now, the census data of women in Holyoke is 51% according to the information of July of 2019. So that means half, slightly more than half of the population in the city of Holyoke are women. In a world where institutions and politics is not the exception, male dominating mindsets are always the ones that are prevailing. How would you advocate, empower, and step up regarding equity and representation of women?
Yeah, let me answer it this way, because I'm at a gender disadvantage when it comes to that. I'm just me, so I'll do it the best I can. I encourage anyone, and I will encourage anyone, to run for office and to participate in politics, participate in our civic boards. I have personally registered numerous people to vote this election cycle. I've had multiple people run against me, including women over my time as city council. I've been primaried twice by women, multiple women, and all I can do is campaign and work hard and do the best I can for anyone, and that's all I'm going to continue to do, Johan. And so do I encourage? Do I encourage more equity? Of course. Do I want to go? Will I go into schools and make myself available? Will I invite people to come and if we get elected, to visit me in Boston? Will I rent buses to have them? I absolutely will, because I want as many women and as many Holyokers to see what happens in Boston. To see then that's why I write my newsletter, is so that I can demystify city government. That's one of the biggest goals I've had. So I always send out the city council. I never got a city council agenda with, prior to being a city councilor, never saw one. And so I want to demystify government. I want anyone to know, especially from Holyoke, that I want them to run for office. I want them to participate in civic debate, because it's vital. And without the perspective of both genders or no gender, where are we going to go? Nowhere. So as a society, we're all in this together. So let's work together, and that's what I plan to do.
And another interesting point regarding your signs, asking for constituents to vote for your campaign. It caught my attention that says it's all about Holyoke. Now, I wonder, for the perception of different sectors of the diversity that you mentioned a moment ago, what is the Holyoke we are talking about? What constitutes Holyoke?
Top to bottom, left to right, backwards, forwards, the whole city, everybody. I've got support everywhere, and from, I don't want to say names, but it's because it's unfair. But there are. So I'm a ward counselor, right? And so I represent a very diverse ward, and I've represented them with enthusiasm and respect all the time. And so that's what I plan to do, is represent, and I've campaigned now in every corner of the city on foot myself. Now, I can't do it the old way. As you can probably guess, I'm a talker. But I love retail politics. That's my calling card. And I can't knock on doors, but we do canvass, and I can drop literature places. And if somebody wants to come out and engage, which has happened, about a fraction of the time is my normal campaign, but it has happened. I love it. And there's some good questions and some pointed ones too. And so I'll continue to walk into every neighborhood in Holyoke, whether it's West Holyoke or the Flats. Listen, I'm a Holyoke guy. I played, I wasn't really good at sports, but I played all the sports, I'll tell you that. And I loved them all. And growing up, we talk about this all the time. Growing up playing sports in Holyoke, if you can't play sports with everybody in the community, you're not going to be involved in too many games in the city. So there's that. I wish I was better at it though. That's my only regret. I wish I was a little bit better at basketball and baseball, but Oh well.
Thank you. I think regarding time, we are hitting the limit. So I guess it will be just to ask for a closing statement, a message for the community to consider supporting your campaign.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. I don't really have anything prepared, but written out. But let me just speak from the heart. It's been an honor to serve. I've said this both to you. I think both of you know me well enough. I love engaging in it. It's been so much fun. The only one who predicted this was going to be so much fun was my dad. And I mean, he was a state rep, and I always admired the state rep and all that. And I said, do I want to be a city councilor? Oh boy, it's been a lot of fun. And I want more people to run at large and run and start challenging other ward councilors. There's only one or two of us that get challenged every cycle. Other ward councilors deserve to have debates, and I want to see that. And but it doesn't happen. So one of my massive goals is to encourage more civic engagement. But I'll leave with this thought, and I'm going to repeat myself, and I apologize for that. I feel though as though I am just a steward. I want to leave, when I leave office, whether it's at the end of 21 because I don't win this race, or down the highway because we won a state rep race. I want the parts that I touch to be better off than when I found them. If I can do that, I'm going to be a success. Now, I know not everybody's going to want to join with me, and that's okay, because we have a diverse community. If we emphasize that, as I said, if we play to our strong suit, which I want to repeat, boy, Holyoke's going to move forward, and we're going to jump out of the pack. And I think we're going to advance to the place of prominence where Holyoke has been, and Holyoke deserves it. And if we can do that, if I can do that, if I can help facilitate that, boy, I'll tell you, I'm going to be really proud. And I just ask for everyone's consideration. Early voting started, and vote by mail started, and we're going to have the. I think the early voting is August 22nd, if I remember, for a few days. But you correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And encourage people to vote and ask for the consideration at the polls on September 1st.